Hello, this is Dr. Stanley Lang. Welcome to this broadcast, and the topic is listening to God and how that's the core to true whole person health and the core to physical health. The context for this sharing is the idea of whole person health, which is the integration of health of body, mind, and spirit. And I'd like to share a story with the patient about a patient encounter that I had today that illustrates the issue, and I think is probably true for lots of us as we deal with whatever physical challenges that face us. And that issue is that what keeps us motivated to keep going forward, doing the things physically that allow us to be healthier or put us back on the path of good health. And the person that I was speaking with is somebody that is very committed, has a very committed spiritual life, and the role of spiritual health is really critical to this person's whole life. Yet there are some big obstacles that this person needs to overcome to achieve physical health. And part of that is related to many years of not very good control of diabetes, many years of being overweight, many years of eating the wrong food. And so the question is, what has this got to do with spiritual health? Well, when I was having my own prayer time this morning and trying to sense what was God speaking to me through the scriptures that I was reading and praying about, I felt like God was saying that, well, I was actually led to ask a question: what's the most important thing in my relationship with God? And what came to mind was that the most important thing was that I wanted to know what God was saying to me, and that second of all, I wanted to do what He was saying for me to do, and that those were more important than anything. If I wasn't really interested in what God was saying to me, then I'm really not very interested in the relationship. And I might be doing lots of other things right in my life, but the relationship with God is not in a good place if my core doesn't want to know what He thinks about what's going on in my life and what He's saying to me about what's going on in my life. And then I'm willing to do what He says, because this is critical, because when it comes to our persons, we are whole person health. We are holistic beings. God made us body, mind, and spirit on purpose, not by accident. And so there's a reason that we have a body, and that reason includes that's how we're supposed to experience God somehow speaking to us and interacting with us. And one of the ways that He does that is through our health or lack thereof. And we tend to be self-destructive in the sense that we give into, in a lot of different areas of our life, self-destructive behaviors, whether it's eating the wrong foods, drinking the wrong drink, using drugs, using alcohol as a way to get away from the stresses of life. A lot of different ways that we can be destructive with our bodies. Now, I'm not even talking about emotional, relationship, self-destructive stuff. So we have this tendency to kind of give into things that are self-destructive, and that's just the way we are. And if we didn't have this tendency, if we were like bulletproof, if we were like a tank that couldn't be harmed, we wouldn't feel a need for God. I mean, we would go through life never sensing a need for God. And so God made us in a way that we literally need Him if we want to be healthy, because otherwise we trend and tend towards unhealthy behaviors. So each of us has to wrestle with a certain set of unhealthy behaviors that we tend to do. I haven't met anybody yet that isn't wrestling with something along these lines. And so what does God have to say about that particular thing in our lives? And inevitably, it has something to do with how He loves us, wants us to experience His love, and it means learning how to give up physical pleasure in favor of happiness. So a lot of people are confused about this concept. They think that happiness equals physical pleasure. And the paradox is, if we pursue physical pleasure, we will not be happy. If we pursue happiness, which requires relationship with God, if we pursue happiness, which is in the Declaration of Independence, if we pursue happiness, then pleasures will come into our life, and we will have the appropriate kind of pleasures at the appropriate times. But when we pursue pleasure, we get sick. And our world has never, Western civilization has never had more pleasures at easily available to us than we have right now. So if you want to be full of the pleasure of eating things that taste good, they're sweet, whatever the pleasurable sensation is, it's all over the place. If you want the pleasure of getting drunk, it's easy to do. If you want the pleasure of getting high on drugs, easy to do. But that's not happiness. Pursuit of happiness means that we are pursuing relationship with God, because that's the only way that we will have sustained happiness. Pursuing relationships with other people, of course, is part of being human and part of pursuing relationship with God. But if we pursue relationships with other people at the expense of God, we won't be happy either. So pursuing happiness is the core to being in this balanced state of health of body, mind, and spirit. And that means pursuing relationship with God, from my perspective, at least seeing who's healthy, who's not, as I'm interacting with people. And how do we get out of the trap of disease? Well, we stop pursuing pleasure and we start pursuing happiness. And in pursuing happiness, pursuing God, understanding that means I got to pursue God. And that means I got to want to listen to what he has to say and be willing to do what to do what I think he is saying to do. So obviously there's a lot of different ways to understand what does it mean to listen to God and what does it mean to be obedient. And I'm not going to cover that in this video. I just want to sort of make the statement that I think that pursuing happiness means pursuing relationship with God. It doesn't mean pursuing pleasure. It's the opposite of pursuing pleasure. So as you deal with your health issues, it's really it is a spiritual challenge. It's a spiritual battle of putting aside the pursuit of pleasure and instead pursuing happiness by pursuing primarily relationship with God. And then you're in a position to pursue relationships with other people in a way that you will be good to that relationship and not bad for the relationship. So I hope these thoughts have been challenging to you, in a sense that helping you to reflect on how to move into a healthier place in your life. I wish you well, God's blessings, and have a great day.